This is the After Party. Your hosts are the Great Order and No White Guilt. The Honors Roll Call highlights and celebrates those who have conscientiously committed to monthly gifts in my work for White Wellbeing. And appearing on the All Stars portion on the Honors Roll Call today are Child of Lindbergh, Joseph, Final Blossom, The Good Girl, White Healing, Going Free, and Shaxor. And those remaining on the Honors Roll Call are Jim, Goofy Grape, Michigan Wave, JP, Last Paleocon, Happy Cat, DB Cooper, Hendrickson, Quebec, Scott, Clay Art, William, Save Western Civilization Now, Mr. Ray, Crocus, Dean, King Petrus, Brad C., Wayne, Evillian, and Arvandigel. There is no two ways about it, ladies and gentlemen. These folks, along with those who cannot financially gift, but who dedicate their time, talents, and energy to white well-being, are the ones who are making it happen. My deep gratitude to all of you good people. Folks, if you are not one of them, you need to thank them. As for the crown winner of last week, the crown goes to David M. for giving a total of 20 Prometheus Rising pounds. Commendations, flattery, and applause to you. In second place was Lark Ascending, gifting 10 pounds. Congrats and thank you as well. You can financially gift, folks, on Entropy in just a moment, which I will have up, where you can also watch the stream and ask and vote on those questions over there. They won't disappear unless you or I delete them. And you can also participate in polls if I decide to put any up. You can financially gift on Cash App as well. And those who are financially gifting will get preference with your questions or comments. Now today, Jared and I are going to be spending the hour with all of you, addressing your questions and comments and potentially addressing some of the latest news. Mr. George, it feels really good to be back with you, brother. Just the two of us. How are you doing, good sir?
Here we are. Yeah, it does. It does. I like this. I realize we haven't done it in a while, and same as you. It feels good. Just fun to talk to you and also hang out with the chat, do something a little more laid back. So here we are, impromptu.
Yeah, let me jump over to the Entropy and get that up and rolling for everybody so that they can do as I had mentioned just a moment ago. Watch, comment, and financially gift. That little bit of audio there was from Entropy, which is now up and running. And folks, I'm going to show a picture to you all. If you have watched the Going Free streams, you may have seen this before. It's just a mysterious place I discovered. These are Rose of Sharon, these lovely bushes. They, believe it or not, they are about 9 feet or so tall. So they're quite prodigious there. Lovely plants, ornamental plants. And there's this little passageway you can see here, a little magical passageway. For anyone who can guess where the passageway leads by the end of the show, you will have bragging rights. You may tag Jared or I in the live chat over on No White Guilt, which is on the monitors to my right, your left. My left is the Discipline channel. You can tag me over there as well. And I see Andre Boston is over there. If you do, that is Discipline and then WG. So Mr. George and I on No White Guilt channel, you can tag us. And of course, you can write in the question widget, the Talk Kevin widget over on Entropy, and which is now up and running. And I see we have Monty is with us, Shauna Shaw, Art Acrobats, the wonderful Heidi is with us. Great to see you. Carlisle as well. Bill is with us. Look at all of these heroes. Justin.
Jason and I did determine what's through that magical passageway prior. Maybe we should make some kind of graphic we can email someone, bragging rights. There has to be something they can frame, something a little more tangible.
Yes, I like that idea.
Yeah. It's something a little off the beaten path, as it were. Might
Yeah.
not be quite obvious. So,
Yeah.
or to see Heidi guessing a stream or a creek. Well, you're watching a stream, but unfortunately, the correct answer is not a stream. But thank you for participating, Heidi Van Buskirk. I kind of said that like Trump, like I kind of rolled out the Kirk, Heidi Van Buskirk. You know how he kind of does that. He kind of
Yeah, he does.
An O with his it's a very, he lends himself to being, he is not inimitable, at least in his mannerisms. He is in fact profoundly imitable.
Yes.
He lends himself to being imitated. I don't know if there's a better word for that than imitable. You might know, Jason. You're good. You're kind of like a thesaurus. You're my human thesaurus.
Well, you're right on the money. I think there with Trump, he is absolutely imitable, and many people would like to be with all the success that he has had. Maybe that's something folks would like to talk about, the upcoming election. What do you all want to talk about? Stuart is here. It says Promethean hails from the UK, and hail to the Westman's dynamic duo. Well, that's very nice of you, Stuart. Great participant.
Thank you.
In the community for going free. Yeah, we could talk about anything you all want to talk about tonight. Bring it up. It's sort of like a ask me anything. And Jared and I clarified that. What was it last year? Where it's an ask me anything, but we don't have to answer anything. So you can ask anything you want.
Yes, an invitation is not an obligation.
Oh, Art Acrobat says it leads to a bunker with a giant freezer, multiple freezers with stacks of meat. Yes. And there's a certain content producer that you can find in the bottom of that bunker, telling everyone else that they need to get a bunker of their own. An elaborate mausoleum just at the end. No, I'm afraid that's not it. No, I'm afraid Mr. George was the one who found out where it led first. So that's you all will have to guess. It's not a bunker though. But
we guess though, Arts Acrobat.
Yeah, it is a great guess.
I appreciate everyone participating. Heidi Van Buskirk, the first one I mentioned, of course, lovely wife of Raymond Van Buskirk, and they're both very active here. And we always like to thank them for their modding when they show up. Raymond does a lot of modding. So always good to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a dynamic duo, aren't they? Fantastic members of our community, and we love them both. They do so much wonderful work in the community, and so a big thank you to both of those heroes. Help to really, and there's Elaine Sabatino, another hero. Help to really make this the family that it's. And here comes Mrs. Jess Horst, the family that it has to be if we're going to survive. Now
we have some very creative answers on DLive, if I just may say for a second.
Oh, right. Okay.
And this is a little more nebulous. I kind of like where they're going. And to tell you the truth, this is a little closer to the correct answer, actually, believe it or not. So Johnny Medieval on DLive says a portal to the fairy realm. I kind of like that. Millennial Honky 89 says the rabbit hole. That's a good guess.
Oh.
Boudica says Narnia. And it's funny, Jason, before the show, I said to you, it's kind of Narnia-esque. So getting the right place. Johnny Medieval said Mordor as well. The Nordic man, I guess, apropos of his name, said Valhalla. Boudica said the Shire. So we have a couple of Tolkien references. You guys are thinking in the right direction. You're thinking the right category, but maybe keep it a little closer to home.
Yes.
But think of the answers I just gave you, but then put a little closer to home and a little closer to some of the things going on here. Maybe that's the biggest hint I'll give.
That is a big.
That's a generous hint, wouldn't you say?
That is a generous hint indeed. We do have over here on Entropy a question by, right off the bat, Mestizo is asking about the California bill. Is it SB 45? SB 145. And I'm afraid that I don't know a lot about it. In fact, I know very little, but I did pull it up. And this is it has to deal with the sex offender registry. And if somebody who has some more info on that could provide that, then maybe even an article, if you have an article that covers this bill succinctly, I will take a look at it. An act to amend sections 290 and 290.006 of the Penal Code relating to sex offenders. Legislative
it might be I saw something about this, if it's the same thing, that age related. And if so, if this is the same thing that I saw, then it seems to be under that general category of they're just trying to get ahead of the curve with lessening the pedophilia. I don't. Are we able to say that? Are we going to get flagged by YouTube if we mention that?
Well, I'm sure at
Should
this
I
point,
say other words around it to
well,
mask what
I'm sure we
talking
can't.
about?
Just like on Twitter, I don't think you can condemn pedophilia on Twitter anymore. I could be wrong, but so perhaps we'll just have to.
Yeah, they're trying to. We know they're trying to get ahead of it. I think we all know what's going on. But I think a lot of we're normal people. A lot of the average people out there see what's going on as well. And I do want to say that as a caveat if we do get it in any news today, because I don't know, just putting this out there, guys, just because there's crazy stuff going on in the world doesn't mean we have to focus on it every minute of every day. Not saying it's not important, but I do believe it's important. It's also important to take a look at what you focus on, make sure you're just not putting toxicity into your eyeballs all the time without balancing it otherwise.
Right. Well, let's do this. If anybody who has my email,
just keep that in mind. We always have to talk about all that stuff, but
if anybody has, are you frozen? My friend. Oh, he's back.
I'm good. I'm here.
Okay.
Maybe because I said the P word and something went haywire.
Probably.
We'll have to. Well, let's think of a code. We have to think of a code for it.
Think of a code for code word.
That's a tough one to think of a code for, because it's like you don't want to act like you're making light of something that is very heavy and the most disgusting thing imaginable. Well, all I was saying to finish the thought before was that there's a lot of average people out there who see what's going on as well. And as much as there's crazy stuff going on, I don't think this is being overly Pollyanna-ish or optimistic. There are shoots of hope sprouting up as well. And there's a lot of unseen, maybe unforeseen side effects of some of the crazy stuff going on right now. And I do please ask people to keep that in mind as well, because there's a constant diet of just terrible news. And for all of you out there listening, we focus a lot on our own health and well-being, and there's a balance there with taking this stuff in and understanding what's going on, being able to navigate the world. But if you listen to one more YouTube video on something like that, if you keep scrolling through Twitter for another 5 minutes and see even more violence and bad news, and you already know what's going on, is that extra 5 minutes, is that extra YouTube video, is it really doing anything for you? Or is it better to turn it off and go take a walk or talk to a loved one or cook yourself a meal, or maybe focus on something to better yourself, learn something? So please do keep that in mind as well.
I'm just pulling up the DLive over on the machine over to my left, and we'll see if it'll operate properly over there. I do see here this California lawmakers passed bill to address youth regarding states' sex offender registry. California lawmakers have passed a bill aimed at ending discrimination against a community who, let's see, I'm not going to say the name of the community, so that the pandas, I think Heidi said, although I like the animal panda, but I guess it does. Raymond Foster's here. So is Carlisle. Great to see the both of you. Art Acrobats still speaking to our question earlier in the show. A secret garden. Well, that's a wonderful story, but no, it is not a secret garden of sorts, we could say.
Yeah, it's kind of in the right spirit, but we wouldn't make it that obvious.
No.
Jason and I are a little more out there. The panda thing is that's a funny word for it too, because I just saw something about how there's apparently this, Jason, I don't know if you've seen this or anyone in the community has seen this. There's this kind of animated, cartoony blue bear, and sick as this sounds, it's this kind of code, I think, or symbol for that community.
Oh, really? I did not.
You can call them a community. Those people who are unfortunately extremely mentally unwell,
Right.
and or possessed by outright evil. And I learned of it because actually someone did a troll and actually put out these fake memes of the bear kind of wrestling Pepe to make it seem like, and for a lot of people out there that don't know what this bear means, the bear's blue and they put like a Biden hat on the bear, and then they got it out and they proliferated it out into kind of like the leftist underground channels. And apparently the leftists just thought it was this symbol of like Biden overtaking Trump. It was like the bear putting Pepe in a headlock or throwing him out with the trash. And it's kind of, let's get rid of these magatards, or let's get rid of these alt-right if they're still using this term. But it was actually this kind of jujitsu reverse troll, because the leftists didn't understand that they start putting this meme out and they think it's this bear, this Biden bear. And they were actually with the two B's calling it a Biden bear, putting it out there, not realizing that this bear is actually a symbol of what we're talking about. And
That was pretty shrewd.
and I'm sure as more people connect the dots, or the dots are connected for them, because the average person is not going to know what that bear means. I didn't know what the bear meant, but then people are going to be like, wait, why are these people putting out this bear associated with Biden? And it's associated with those who prey on children. Maybe the P is for also prey, or panda. I don't know, Jason, do we want to use panda? It kind of goes with the bear thing, but I think that's kind of putting pandas in a bad.
Puts pandas in a bad light.
I like you. I like pandas. I'm pro panda.
I'm pro panda. Well, we do have a Sir Mestizo supplied a story here that I can read from Fox 11. Of course, anything that isn't produced by CNN is obviously going to be fictional. So this is pure fiction that I'm reading from a fiction website called Fox 11 News. Writes, new California bill would lower penalties for adults who have sexual relations with a minor, it claims. Los Angeles, a new bill headed to Governor Newsom's desk would lower penalties for adults who have consensual sex with a minor if the offender is within 10 years of age with the victim. Wow, how absolutely, this obviously has to be fiction, because that would mean that a 20-year-old could SB 145 passed in both houses of the state legislature late Monday evening. This is, I just want to, if signed into law, a 24-year-old could have, okay, we can do the math. Under the current law, while it is illegal for an adult to have consensual, this is verbiage is really infuriating. Consensual sex, you cannot consent if you are a minor, period. If you have sex with a child, the child cannot consent to it. Even if the child says that the child wants to do so, they have not matured enough to be able to make that decision. And that is why we don't do things like, say, like take your baby out and put your baby out in the sun to get a tan or to get a sunburn, because the skin isn't yours. The retinas aren't yours to destroy. It is your duty as the adult to preserve those things for that human being, which is an individual, no matter what age, is still a human individual, so that when they reach adulthood, they can then make the decisions they want to make with their bodies. Mm-hmm. That's why we don't do those things. That's why you don't give a baby tattoos, or that's why you don't allow a juvenile to make these decisions. Okay, it goes into like some specifics about types of sex, and that this is all, the penalties are all going to be lowered in California.
It's goalposts. Yeah, they're shifting the goalposts, obviously.
And of course, the reason for this is they're saying, well, and this is anti-Whiteism, and remember, ladies and gentlemen, always apply and the understanding of going free, the lexicon and dialectics we have here. I know it's going to take some exercise, but don't fall back into these old tendencies that are ineffective. This is clearly anti-white doctrine, and what they're saying here is equality of outcome. They don't have enough, let's say, ordinary white people who are being charged with these offenses. And so they're obviously going to have to get rid of those offenses so that we can have equality of outcome when it comes to these sorts of things. Where else have you seen this applied prior to something as absolutely demonic, straight from hell, as something like this, the harming of children? Where else? Well, you saw it and you see it continually getting worse in schools. And you heard from people like Mr. George and myself, good people, sounding the siren when we said, wait a second. 10 years ago in schools, when they were saying, wait, we want equality of outcome when it comes to punishment. 10 years before, 20 years before that, they were saying, we need equality of outcome when it comes to grades. So, and if the grades aren't the same, if the punishments aren't, the number of people being punished aren't the same, that means that there has been some heretical activity afoot, and so therefore you white people have to be punished. And of course, we said that this was exactly the kind of place that this was going to go, and here is where it is. So rest assured, within 5 years, they're going to be television shows that are going to be openly promoting these sorts of relationships. This is straight from the pits of hell.
Take it their way. I have another. Did you see this? Is kind of related. Another news story from an unreliable source, but I've seen these headlines about a truck in Georgia, flatbed truck that had 39 missing children from all over the country. Were all in this truck. Like I said, I mean, it's a sick subject, and it's hard to countenance. It's hard to talk about. But someone asked about it. But as I said at the beginning, we do have to understand that I think a lot of average people are seeing what's going on, and the lunatics, the evil people who are behind all this stuff they're getting too confident. They're overplaying their hand. I'm not so sure it's going to work out well for them. So we do have to keep some measure of faith in that, and keep getting the word out, and just keeping our cool. Like I said, being aware of these things, but also not letting it consume us. Because I mean, man, there's nothing more. There's nothing sicker or more evil to think about than something like this. I know it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing. But
it definitely is, and
we were asked about it. And
yes,
so we addressed it. But I don't know if I have the stomach to stay on this the whole time.
No, but we do have an authoritative source, CNN itself. Authorities have found 39 missing children in Georgia during a 2-week effort to rescue endangered minors. So that means it actually happened. CNN said so. So Mr. George is proven correct. Now we'll go back to, we will show you all. There is the question of the day.
Oh, by the way, unrelated to what we were just talking about, before you post the question again, Jason, for anyone just tuning in, that would be a little sick. What's the question for our new listeners just tuning in right now? And for anyone listening in audio and in replay, we're showing an image right now of a beautiful garden with a little passageway in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And we have Fornull has shown up. Shauna Shaw, Row House, Celtic Advocate, Evidence Violates, Community Guidelines, Links in the Shadows, Striggy Bacon. Hansa is here. Well, Hansa actually shares with us that the legal age of consent in Mexico, he claims, is 12 years of age. Now, we don't know if that's true. If CNN says so, then it is. And
I have seen that. Also.
Jared, Groundhog Fury is here. We got all of the greats are coming out today. But the question of today is, where does the secret passage in this photograph lead? The secret passage. You can post your answers. Whoever gets the right answer will get bragging rights, and we will potentially share. We will send out maybe a graphic for the bragging rights. If you get the right answer. We've had some good ones so far.
You get signed black and white 8.5 by 11s of us and like that old Hollywood portrait style with the soft bulbs. We're like,
Oh, yes, yes.
they should have an app for that. I like those old Hollywood style headshots. The way like the studios would take pictures of the movie stars back in the 30s. There's this allure to them that I've never seen. Like they have all these apps now that can make you look old for all the stuff they can do.
Yeah.
I just want to see what I would look like if I was a 30s movie star and had that kind of that black and white with the soft bulb flashes they used to use headshot.
Yes.
That's all I ask for.
That's
Heidi said, how about a Smurf village or a mushroom colony? Heidi, again, good guess. I appreciate the effort.
Yes. Not quite right. Groundhog Fury says it leads to the holy den of Scorch. All glory to him. Long live Scorch.
I have a good one here from Radical Greek. It leads to the ADL headquarters. Very creative, Radical Greek. I almost feel like you should get an honorable mention for that one.
Yes, I do. I agree. We have a couple of financial gifts we'll read here. We have Heidi financially gifting $25. Jared, Ray keeps telling me that I've been leaving you out. Sorry. Here's some support from the both of us. Well, thank you so much, Heidi.
Oh, that's just please. Thank you so much.
And we also have Hansa with a financial gift, $10. Thank you, dear sir. Howdy, heroes. Jared and Jason, I'm still pushing NWG channel in comment sections, and I'm so very happy to see it's finally 21,000. I have Althea. Yeah. I have Althea's also. The trail goes to. Oh, okay. Now we also have a guest here. The trail goes to a park or playground. Rose of Sharon. Also, Althea, my father planted several about 35 to 40 years ago. So your father planted. You were responding to Althea. I guess it was saying that your father planted 35 to 40 years ago. Planted some Rose of Sharon plants, and you better be trimming them back because those things will
grow, huh?
They will be dinosaurs if you don't cut them back about every 2 years. Art Acrobat's Secret Reptilian Control Center.
He's a creative guy, I know, and that was a very creative answer. Again, you put a smile on my face, Mr. Acrobats.
I really like Groundhog Fury from the talking about it's a comedy, damn it. That's where that verbiage comes from. The Scorch and those characters. If you want to know who that is, ladies and gentlemen, you have to read It's a Comedy, Damn It. Althea writes here, the Promethean Forest.
What do you think, Jason?
That's pretty well.
Is it like hitting the post or is it in the goal? I'll leave it to you.
Oh boy,
we have to have like a little referee conference. Like I feel like we should go on mute for a second, but we can't do that at the live stream. So we have to go confer.
Yeah, we've got to look in that little.
Jason's gonna come over the last week. After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field.
I don't
stand. See, for any of our international listeners, and it's funny. I have this weird thing where I love sports metaphors, even though I'm not a sports fan, even though I don't watch sports. I somehow, for some reason, it's how I'm trying to connect. I'm trying to connect with the people out there. The people. I love the people. All the good people.
I think
we're talking about imitating Trump before.
I was going to say Trump has rubbed off on you more of his speeches.
We have the best people here in this community. The best people. Yeah, that was for any of our international listeners. And I don't even know. Are they going to do a season this year? Who knows? With all the stuff going on,
sports.
I don't know. And we know they're anti-white, the NFL, but American football. For all of our international listeners, that was an American football, that weird sport where they actually don't kick it with their feet, but it's called football nonetheless. But you see, sometimes they'll stop play and they'll review something on the video. I used to watch sports when I was a kid enough to know these references. So they'll confer, the football referees will confer and then one of them will come out and he'll hit this little clip, and so the whole stadium can hear him over the stadium's PA, and he'll say, after reviewing the tape, the ruling on the field, and then he'll either say it stands or overturned.
Yes.
So when it's close, it's like he was carrying the football, and did his foot go out of bounds before or after he crossed the plane to bring it into the end zone and score a touchdown? So something like that. So right now, I'm basically buying time. This is called I'm stalling by BSing with all of you like this about American football. So the Jason in his own head, he has these little neurons in his own head right now. I can give you the play-by-play in Jason's head saying, what are we going to do about Althea's response here?
Well,
Jason, what do you think?
I guess it's certainly, if you're in the Promethean force, then you're in Promethea. So that
I'd say I was going in your direction. I say we give it to her. So there you go.
I think we have
Leave it to Althea. Leave it to Althea to get it.
The path leads to Promethea, ladies and gentlemen.
You got it, Althea. Man, you are impressive.
That's true. That's true. Well done. Now we know. Now we know. Let's see if I can.
You got it, Althea. The answer was Promethea, and when I saw Promethean forest, I said to myself, I think that's close enough. I mean, it's a place in Promethea. You could kind of say it's synonymous with Promethea. For anyone that doesn't know, of course, this is a realm in Jason's book, in his realm of fantasy, but it has a lot of practical wisdom and advice in Prometheus Rising, his book. We celebrated the release of its standalone edition back in May a few months ago. If you want to watch an after party that's only devoted to that show. In fact, when Jason said Groundhog Fury is here, Groundhog Fury is actually an artist who did he did the back and front cover art. Is that correct? If I remember,
he did all
for that standalone edition of Parade. Yeah, that cover is the work of our own Groundhog Fury, and then also the back, right? Yeah. I like this one a lot. That painting there of the folk of different generations, very much getting this feel of the book's mythic yet timeless fiction that Jason paints with his words. I'm looking through the chat because we actually missed an entry that was pretty funny.
There was one about, was it art acrobats again? A statue of Prometheus or a statue of Nancy Pelosi. We did have Nancy Pelosi, who went into a hair salon. This is the one standard for me, another standard for thee, when it comes to the America of today, where she says she has forbidden all to go into things like hair salons. And so she goes ahead and sneaks into one. She's recorded there. And then what do the anti-whites do? They change the conversation from the fact that there is a double standard where you are not allowed to go out and have your haircuts. You are not allowed to go out to the places of business that you would like to go. The business owners are going out of business, including the woman who owns this chain of salons is going out of business. She's going to have to leave the city now. As a matter of fact.
That's rich. That's
San
rich. Pelosi goes to someone who's going out of business.
Yes.
You're giving her a $20,000 tip.
No, I'm sure nothing. Just called one of the stylists, her specific stylist, and the stylist went and opened the location. The owner didn't know about this, but the owner did have security cameras, and the owner was able to look back on the security camera, see indeed that Nancy Pelosi was there. And that, of course, Pelosi, then the anti-whites want to change the argument. And it was great I actually caught a bit of Tucker Carlson last night. It was fantastic. He recalled, for us around Washington, D.C., there is nothing more, nothing that warms the heart like Marion Barry, the mayor of Washington, D.C., smoking crack. Of course, this didn't happen in the real world. It was all this fiction. It happened in World of Warcraft or in the latest novel you're reading.
Yeah, I've heard about Marion Barry.
Man. Oh boy!
Even though I'm not exactly from your neck of the woods, Marion Barry, the former mayor of DC, is like notorious dude. When was he mayor? In like the early 90s?
Oh, well, I mean, we can pull the exact date of when Barry was.
Yeah, I kind of turned to the side before and I was in profile, and I know some people saw I probably have like hair sticking out of the back of my head, all like a ball, because unlike Nancy, I can't go to my stylist, of course.
No, we can't.
It's gonna get wild and crazy here, and I kind of snip here and there when I can, and kind of keeping it somewhat sensible. We'll see. I don't know, man. I'm gonna be, when I release my music, maybe I should just let it go longer anyway. It might make a little more sense.
Might as well.
Yeah, that's funny. She's probably like, I have an event I need to go to. I just please open for me. Okay, I'm gonna come in. Yeah.
Could you imagine? She just like leaves her slug trail behind her, and she heads into this salon where nobody else is allowed to go. And so they wanted to make the argument. They have successfully made the argument out of the argument that Barry used and so many anti-whites use, which it was a setup. I tell you, here in DC, yeah. So it was, he was in office for a great many years, and the best part about it is that after he got out of prison for smoking crack with a prostitute in DC, they reelected him. So I mean,
that says a lot about DC, man.
Oh, and the best video though is where he's saying, the feds came in, and he just keeps saying, that bitch set me up. That bitch set. So that's what we have Pelosi saying now. It was a setup rather than the subject being about her being able to do something.
Maybe we should do a skit. I got to get philosophic. Maybe she'll put on like a short brunette wig, and she could be Pelosi. And well, geez, it's two women, so I'd either have to be in drag. I don't know how that would play in our circles these days. It used to be funny before it was actually like a thing in 2020 in our day and age, when it's like that it's supposed to be a signal of like that's what event's supposed to be. Maybe we'd have to get a female actress. But at any rate, it'd be funny to have a skit, Jason, to kind of play out the fantasy of how that would be a setup. Like you get this salon calling Nancy Pelosi and saying,
"Come in.
Look, obviously, I know there must be split ends at this point, right? It must be getting out of control." And then Nancy's like, "I don't know. It's COVID. We have to take it seriously. I'm a public figure. People look up to me. I like, what would they think if I'm doing this?" And I tell other people that, Nancy, come on. I know your roots are showing. I know you have this big meeting. I know you have this charity gala. September opens the season. You're going to be doing more charity events. You have to speak. You have to go to DC. We know your gray roots must be showing. Come on, Nancy, just come in. Just come in. We won't, we'll keep it. We could do it all under the table. That's the setup. That's how the salon is setting up Nancy Pelosi. Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. That plays well. That makes perfect sense. What was Tucker Carlson saying about, he's bringing up Marion Barry and relating it to the setup thing?
Yes, because he talked about how the anti-whites, Laurel is here, great to see you. He talked about how the anti-whites, they always do the deflection and make the argument about something other than what they're guilty of. And so that is, he likened Pelosi today to Barry, and he played clips of Barry, the wonderful clips that used to warm our hearts here outside of the nation's capital, with Barry saying, "That bitch set me up. That bitch set me up."
Is that like a meme down in DC?
Yes. If you say that anywhere in the district, everybody will immediately know what you're talking about.
You ever see that on a shirt? Did they ever make a shirt with his picture on it that says?
They should have. They probably did. I'm sure of it. But the thing about Barry that was so just talk about like third worldish. He was ahead of his time. I mean, if he was today, it would be perfect.
You have to say something nice, Jay. You have to say something nice about Marion Barry. So.
Yes, he was way ahead of his time, because
man ahead of his time.
When he walked around the city, which he often would do, probably looking for.
Don't tell me he had a cougar on a chain.
No, no, but he did have like a 20 policeman detail, as though he were like the dictator in some bizarre, Banana Republic.
Banana Republic, right?
Yeah. So I came across him twice. in the district, and I just suddenly surrounded by police officers. And I thought, what in the hell's going on? And sure as he's strolling down the road, and they're walking all around him.
I'm glad that you said that, Jason. I actually, no joke, I guess you'll all have to just take my word for it. I had an encounter, not an encounter, but I was in the presence of, like 20 feet away from Joe Biden several years ago when he was still in the office of vice president. Okay. And of course, what was he surrounded by? Just guys with heavy artillery just all around him. I should say I was able to peek through and see Joe Biden for a second out in public. It wasn't at an event. I was just out at a public place, and he was actually shopping. I'd imagine that he goes and sends someone else to do his shopping, but I guess he wanted to try a suit on or something, and he's shopping somewhere.
I apologize for that.
Was that Marion Barry saying?
No. I could find that. No, I probably, if I played that, although it belongs to the government, I would think, but I probably can't.
I mean, I saw Biden, and look, I don't imagine that the vice president of the United States, I'm under no illusion that the vice president or anyone in that high office of the United States is going to walk around without armed security. Don't get me wrong. But it was recently after, this was funny to me that it was recently after he was publicly making statements about something in the news regarding gun control, or as we like to say, taking away your right to self-defense and things of that nature. So right on the heels of that, I had this little incident where I was able to peer through and see, oh yeah, through all the armed guards with AR-15s and rifles and AK-47s. Oh, there's Joe Biden. He's going to go get a suit, I guess.
Yeah, that's so typical of the anti-whites. We have Elaine Sabatino writing, did we see Tucker's interview with the salon owner? I did catch part of that, and yes, I did learn that she is receiving death threats and threats to burn down her salon or salons that are in San Francisco. So she was saying that she has to close all of her businesses in the city and will be moving out of the city as a consequence. And it says here to connect Barry with Bauer, the current mayor of Washington, D.C., who has, of course, painted Lives Matter black, as we should all be reading from right to left from now on, so we can get ready, for the for our the new form of white erasure. And I think Barry probably would have done even better than the current mayor. Writes here, here, this is WUSA 9. This is the local news network. Task force recommends renaming 49 DC schools, parks, and government buildings. And then it says in here I believe it does, that they are recommending the removal of the Washington Monument and the Jefferson Monument. Mayor Bowser has asked working group to clarify and refine their recommendations to focus on local DC, so no attempts confusing. The works group focused on contextualizing, not removing important monuments and memorials in DC. So it's the federal ones that they want to get rid of. And good luck with. Lovely. But I mean, it's important. It's important. The one thing that's really important here is that any crazy anti-white would have said this 100 years ago. Any really powerless, drug-addled, I guess we could say that drug-addled about just about all of them, but a powerless anti-white could have said that at any point well before every single one of our lives. But now it's the anti-whites who are in power. And it's not just that it's the anti-whites in power, but it's also that we don't have the nodes of power, enough nodes of power to resist these sorts of things. They're quickly being taken from the white race. And that's why we have to move as quickly as we can to get going free out to the masses of our brothers and sisters, because there is no other way. It's the psychological defense for their psychological warfare, or we're going to have, and let me just say, I mean, we have these, what was it? It's a bill going through the federal government right now, 3190, I think it is what it's called. And it has Kamala Harris' name on it. She is a sponsor. And I'm trying to remember. It's something about the internal, a new department in the government that is focused on internal terrorism with a special focus on white nationalism. And they use the phrase, the special focus on white nationalism, in every recommendation throughout the bill. So this is the kind of thing that if we don't quickly get this message out to as many people as we can over these next 4 years that we have or hope to have, if we don't get this out as quickly as we can, bills like that will become law. And then what do you think will happen? Do you think you think it's going to be just a matter of being censored off a YouTube platform or censored off Twitter? So we're going to have to work like there isn't a tomorrow, because there may not well be. And maybe somebody in the live chat now who has look, Seaver Hamlin is here. Great to see you. Who has the name of that bill could write it into the live chat. I would really appreciate it. So it's 41B.
They'll have a very broad definition of what that is, as we know. Because it's not like we even use that term. I don't use that term, but
no, we reject it. But they, of course, they will.
Yeah. It's basically it should be if you don't hate yourself. That's
right.
If you put Roddy Piper's glasses on and you see what it actually says, it's if you don't hate yourself.
Right.
While we were speaking of DC, I saw this little thing, but it might have been just this clickbait kind of thing. I don't know, 6 weeks ago or a little earlier in the summer. There was this push. There were these murmurings of trying to give DC its own constituency in the Electoral College. Obviously, that was some kind of a play for more electoral votes in our U.S. system here. For anyone, again, I'm just trying to keep in mind, we do have international listeners, but DC being so heavily Democrat, it would give extra Electoral College votes to the Democratic nominee for president. So they were trying to play with that, obviously trying to stack as much as they can in their deck prior to November. Now, was that just did that just kind of come and go, or do you hear any talk about that still?
No, they still absolutely are going to move to make a DC a state. DC will become a state if we don't turn back the tide. It is the domestic terrorism prevention
area. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to, Carlisle has chimed in with the bill is called the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act. That's the one that is Kamala Harris's name's on. And remember, she will, if Biden were to win, probably 6 months or so in, he would step down. She would be president. And these sorts of things would become law.
Yeah, and would be vice president too.
Pelosi would be vice president. And these sorts of things would become law. And the feds would come after everyone who is not heretical. So we have to work like the wind. And we've told people, not only Mr. George and I never used the term white nationalist to define ourselves ever. But if you have, we told you last year when the Homeland Security added that to their list of names. It's like using the name of a gang, calling yourself a member of MS-13. It goes onto that watch list of theirs, targeted violence list. And you get on that list, and that list is connected to all of the others in Homeland Security. They no buy, and by no buy, they mean no right to self-defense, no travel, the terrorism watch list. Imagine a whole nother department on top of that in Homeland Security. And every single one of their duties in that department, it explicitly says in the bill, sponsored by Kamala Harris, every single one of their duties says with a special emphasis on white nationalists. So as terrorists. So again, for all of those folks who might have been saying vote for Biden, that's something to think about. And
the two of them as president, I mean, it's not going to happen. But two of them as president and vice president, it's like the ultimate like preschool teacher rule.
It's like Satan and Beelzebub sitting on thrones of skulls. And Hansa makes a great point here. Terrorism, he writes, again, so terrorism against white people will be called anti-terrorism. I wouldn't doubt that they would define it that way. Hansa says he checked about the legal age of consent in Mexico, says it is now 17 years of age. So that might be the
Well, that's a lot more reasonable than 12.
Yes, definitely. So what else do we have here? Let's check over here and make sure. We had Mestizo had shared a link with a dancing blue bear and asking if this is he's got like a little brown hat on. I don't know if that's the one you're talking about, Jared. Blue bear.
Blue bear was associated with the most disgusting thing that we were talking about earlier. It was used as a troll. I don't know if we should even show it. I don't think we should show it.
I'm not gonna.
Yeah. So we'll see. It is a blue cartoon bear, but there was a clever troll where they tricked leftists into using it, thinking it was a Biden bear. Pretty funny level troll, high level troll.
It's like that trolling anti-whites is like trolling. It's like literally stealing candy from babies. Just grab it right out of their hand. 41 BMC says, "Afternoon, lads. Thank you so much."
Oh, Althea wanted a little more clarification on what she won in guessing that the right, as you put up on the screen, the right answer to what's the little secret path in that beautiful garden. And I told her bragging rights.
Yes.
But we'll see if we can send her a little plaque.
Little plaque.
It was no.
The pictures, the soft pictures.
Yeah, like kind of soft light, the way that you used to get from like movie stars.
Yes.
Like signed black and white 8.5, 11 pictures of Jason and I. Althea, I think you'd especially like to hang a picture of Jason. I don't know. Something just tells me that. But no, just joking.
That's
funny.
It
was just a fun way to keep people watching, and we thought
we should do that.
It was going to be a thing throughout the whole show, but Althea guessed correctly like halfway through.
Yeah, she was.
It's kind of anticlimactic now.
I know it was like 31 minutes into the show, and she was already had the answer.
A little review for anyone tuning in late or not knowing what we're talking about. We had this little contest, and we had a review. She said something that wasn't exactly right, but it was very close. And we had to do kind of like the referees conferring on the field. But we ultimately gave her the call. We said, yeah, good goal. You did it, Althea. You guessed correctly. But a lot of funny guesses, a lot of other funny guesses. I can't believe we've been on for almost an hour. See, the time's flying when you're having fun.
Time does fly when you're having fun.
I think this is a good mixture. I think it's a good mixture of light and heavy. This is what we needed.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes Jason and I, just as two good friends, we need a stream that's just us without a guest to kind of reconnect. This is kind of like public tap therapy.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Like going on a corporate retreat to get the team, the synergy in the team back and the magic back in the team once again, but more fun than a corporate retreat.
Oh, much more fun. Well, there's no anti-white training here.
That's certainly not. You will not find that here.
You don't have to put up shenanigans, right? I don't want people to get too comfortable thinking Biden can't win. We all have to show up and vote. Don't think we will just win. I agree. Yeah, we have to absolutely vote because we need T-Rump for 4 more years. Status quo to spread going free as quickly as we can. And we're working on that.
He said he used the term anti-white, on that interview with the MSNBC lady, that prim and proper lady interviewing him a little earlier in the summer. As we saw, we were celebrating. So, I said last year that, first of all, Timmy Bobinson's talking about our little corporate retreat thing. He said, let's sit down and talk about it, Jared and Jason. Thank you for that. That's funny.
Let's sit down and talk about it.
We're referring to our tap therapy here. Jason and I reconnecting without a guest between us. See how there's no guest between us. It's just Jared and Jason, just two panels. There's no guest. There's no guests between us. Not that we feel the guests come between us. We love the guests, but every so often it's good to do something like this. But Timmy, funny little reference there. Anyway, I'm getting a little all over the place. I apologize. What were you originally saying? So Trump said anti-white. So last year I'd said I want to start seeing politicians who can speak to our interests. And I know Trump's not maybe doing that so overtly, and I know there's other things going on. And let's be honest, no one really knows everything going on behind the scenes. I know everyone on Twitter, on YouTube likes to say, well, because he did this, he's not our guy. Look, I'm not saying that I'm Pollyanna-ish and, trust the plan and 16.5D chess and all that. But he has to real politic as well. I'm not saying he is, so don't clip this out and take me out of context. But if, Jason, I don't know if you've ever said anything to this point, but if he is more amenable to certain values and worldviews and ways of doing things that a lot of us would hold, if he is, then he would still have to wheel and deal with certain people who might not be, in order to secure his different power bases and make sure he has the proper voting and the proper support, the structure there to get him to where he needs to be. Again, I'm not saying trust the plan. I'm not saying 16.5D chess. I'm just saying if he was more aligned with how we think than he lets on, he'd still have to do all that and play those games. It's called real politics. It's called living in the real world. Not being a jockey on Twitter or having a YouTube channel and thinking because you have a YouTube channel, you have the entire universe figured out. Because I don't get up here and do that. I tell people I didn't get into this. I'm not a political analyst per se anyway. I mean, you ask me, and if I do a little research on something, I'll try to say something useful. But just because I'm up here doesn't mean I have to have an informed opinion about everything. I don't know about all this stuff. It's okay to say that. I'm more here for arts and culture. That's really where I come from. But anyway, when I see Trump kind of curry favor with certain voting blocks, I don't necessarily say, oh, that's it. He's not our guy. He's sold out. Blah, blah, blah. I see a lot of just one-dimensional thinking, this or that kind of thinking. I'm not saying he's our guy, but as Jason has well articulated, and I'm not here to, Jason and I disagree on things. I'm not saying it just because Jason says it, but I do think Jason has given the correct analysis. And I agree that if you don't vote for Trump, you're voting for Biden, which is really a vote for Harris. And look at what we talked about before with what Harris wants to do, among many other things that we haven't even detailed. Jason, I know you've gone into much greater detail on your going free streams on Sundays. So
yeah,
anyone to get up here and say vote for Biden is, you're just doing it for attention. You're just being an internet, you're just being an internet dancing monkey.
We had Stuart writing in the live chat. Have you heard of Andrew Hitchcock? He does a daily radio show and is on Dr. Duke's show every week. I haven't heard of him.
No, I haven't heard of him either.
We'll have to.
So, Jason, actually, yeah, you clarified. So he didn't say anti-white. I know the word anti-white has been getting around, which is great. What Trump said in the MSNBC interview are so white people are getting hurt or killed by the police. And he was correcting the woman. He didn't want it to go further with this anti-white rhetoric.
That's right.
I said a year and a half ago on a video I did that I wanted to see politicians talk about, or so we don't vote for them.
You did. Yes. Yes.
And I know people might bring that up now and say, Jared, do you still feel this way? Now, I'm not going to go take down that video. I'm not going to go take down that video and act like I didn't make that video. In fact, I'm bringing it up. No one's bringing it up. No one asked me about it. I'm bringing it up because I'm trying to be as forthright and transparent as I can be. I don't take things down so people can kind of see my trajectory. And if I change my mind on something, I'll tell you why I changed my mind and what I was thinking at the time and why I now changed my mind. I want it there. I want to be transparent. I don't think that being okay with voting Trump at this point, and I'm open to questions. And Jason, again, let me know what you think of this, or let me know what you think of what I'm saying here.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that fundamentally it contradicts what I was saying in that video, seeing how Trump has acknowledged, as I was asking for in that video, that's the main thing, based on something actually White Student Transmission, I think it was, who's a great member, very active on Twitter. It was based on something he wrote, and I kind of took it and developed it, and with his blessing, I made it into a video. I don't think it contradicts the spirit of that to now say, all right, he's at least given us enough. He's at least said enough in this direction, and we know what the alternative is, where I think I can in good conscience say it makes sense to vote for him.
I think more so than that, when you were saying that about withholding from a politician who can't even say our name, totally accurate. We're talking about one, and I agree completely, we're talking about one rail of thought. And voting, this is the problem, and you articulate it very well when you're talking about thought that isn't nuanced enough and one track. And I'll stay with that sort of metaphor. Voting in and of itself, we can view it from numerous perspectives. But for the moment, we'll just say you have two parallel tracks. One is voting in as most people understand it and interpret it, in a democracy where you lay down your principles or whatever they might be. Like we said, the politician has to acknowledge our name. I think when a politician, by the way, just to set that aside, when a politician says, in this climate, in an anti-white, inside the anti-white narrative, with the anti-white morality that governs us, when a politician says to rebuke the reporter, so are white people, more white people are dying, more white people, that's a disgusting question. He's saying our name. That is saying our name. But the parallel track here of thought is the one that I believe that we are actually applying, and which is that a tool in the service of white well-being is never illegitimate. And in this case, having 4 more years of T-Rump is a tool for us to arrive at white well-being. It has nothing to do with the other track of thought, which is, here's democracy, you have politicians that are running against each other, you vote for the best one or the one who's going to do the least damage or whatever. This is a completely different track of thought, and this is the kind of nuanced thinking that leadership of any body of people, any organizational entity, that's the kind of thinking they have to have in order to strategize properly. If you stick on this one track type of thinking, you're never going to be able to compete with those of higher IQ, who will be able to view every single sort of act, every single sort of stratagem for the future by way of multiple tracks, multiple perspectives, and how those multiple tracks and perspectives might serve them and their objectives in the long run. It's one of the reasons why for far too long we continue to be our people, our leadership and organizations that represent our people, they continue to be outwitted, and the anti-whites run circles around them, and we're had at every turn, is because we have people in charge who continue to be on this one track type of thinking and approaching every problem and challenge and opportunity as though there's only one way to see the problem, challenge, or opportunity, rather than realizing that there are multiple ways to see it. And once you begin to unwrap that Gordian knot, that Rubik's Cube, and to see it for what it is, then you realize, wow, there are a lot of other things, or premises we can play with, a lot of other perspectives that we can put to use for white well-being and in service of the goal that we have set for ourselves. So Jason, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And do you think that perhaps, as well-intentioned as some of those people may be, do you think that it's just an unfortunate side effect of the fact that for the last however many decades, people who do hold our interests as primary have not had any kind of real world power, and thus it's become such an exercise in the abstract that they're not used to real politics. They're not used to actual negotiation that happens in politics or business. And so they might be, in certain regards, intelligent people.
Mhm.
They might be well-read in certain areas. They might be experts in certain areas of history and be able to use those pieces of history to inform their worldview. And they might sound very impressive when they cite these historical facts and whatnot. But in the application that you're talking about of being able to think multidimensionally and having to work on a few different levels, which is not the same thing as deception. Our people value truth and honor and integrity. Jason nor I know I can speak for you here. I don't like to speak for other people, but I know, Jason, you and I would never in a million years do anything to countersignal virtue and value and integrity and honor. There's the foundations of what we're about. But in real politic, you need to be able to, let's say, just to take an example you were speaking of there, Jason, what I thought of, let me know if I was picking up on what you're saying accurately, is that we can separate a theoretical conversation. Like, let's say we wanted to have a more theoretical stream of democracy as such, and if it's, the pros and cons of it as a form of government, and the idea of it's a shame that we have to vote for the lesser of two evils and all this thing, and we need a more traditional ordered hierarchical structure, and a more natural structure, and cyclical, like you say. I think that makes sense. I don't want to get too far off track, but you know what I'm saying. However you want to slice and dice it, there's a difference between saying, okay, this is a stream where we're almost going to have a public think tank, kind of like John Bruce Leonard and I are doing. We wanted to have an outlet for something more like that because I have a time and a place where I enjoy that. So sometimes it's more open-ended and it's more of a think tank, okay? That's different than saying, we have an election on November 2nd, and the results of that election are going to directly impact our lives and our families' lives, every single one of us listening, okay? So that's different than a theoretical stream about the pros and cons of modern democracy and voting for the lesser of two evils. That's a separate thing. Can we be intelligent enough to separate that think tank theoretical conversation that might play into things that don't happen for many years from the actual choice we have in front of us on November 2nd and the actual real life consequences of choice A or choice B? Those are two different things. Can we be people of high character and integrity and tell the truth and still be able to separate those things? Of course. Why would those things be mutually exclusive? You can delineate at times when something is more long-term or more abstract versus, look, it might be a lesser of two evils, but at least it's going to give us this, and then we can position ourselves here. It's not a bad thing to think strategically. Our people, as honorable and have integrity as we have, and all the things that we celebrate about that side of us, we're a multidimensional people as well. Do you think that our leaders and people who developed all of the wonders that we know of, and people who negotiated with, traveled around the world and traded and had to negotiate with other cultures, do you think they weren't able to operate on these different levels all at once? Do you think they weren't masters of strategy? Do we not have masters of strategy in our own trajectory? Of course. So claim that part of your heritage as well. Does that make sense? Are we speaking the same language on this?
Yeah.
We're talking about the separation of the theoretical democracy versus what we would do on November 2nd, Jason?
Absolutely. Without question. It's the kind of thing that I, over the years, have likened to, we have this narrative where this tale that we share about three blind men and describing an elephant. They all put their hands on the elephant, and they describe three completely different animals because of where their hands are on the elephant. And for me, when I first heard that, it sat perfectly with what I guess maybe have an affinity for doing, which is to observe every challenge from multiple perspectives. In some cases, there are more than one perspective that can arrive at the conclusion that I find desirable, or an outcome I find desirable. In other scenarios, it might just be one. But I think, yeah, there are a lot of reasons why. And folks, if you have any final questions or comments before we tap out today, we're about here at the end. Please make them now, or any final financial gifts, please do so now. We do have a financial gift from 41BMC, financially gifting $10. Thank you, my dear friend. And he writes, for the wind. And I think this is working like the wind. And that's exactly what we have to be doing. Thank you so much, good brother, for this.
Jason, I did want to ask, just so it doesn't, we don't pass it by. Did you, with your experience, going back to your youth as a young man, as an adolescent, do you think that is part of, was I putting my finger there on something, where that's how we get this phenomenon of otherwise intelligent people that are a lot of people who were early advocates for our heritage, our people, the unfortunate byproduct of not having to real politic is that they've only known abstractions. And so they're not used to thinking in these consequences, like A will lead to B kind of things. And
I think that there are probably some broad norms when it comes to causality for that. And then there's probably some individual motivations. I can think of a few, but yes, not being in an environment in which you can work toward an objective in politics, then yeah, absolutely.
I'm talking, of course, we're assuming good faith. We're assuming the person is not just out for self-aggrandizement or is an outright saboteur.
Yes.
But someone who in good faith wants to help.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I would say, and again, you have different experiences than I do, so I want to cross-reference it with your long experience, is that we get to a place where people may be well-meaning and they may be intelligent, but for so long, these circles have marinated in not having access to anything that was really affecting larger change, that the unfortunate byproduct of that is that they kind of lost a sense of real politic. And then when they see someone doing real politic, they're like, well, no, this is going against this abstract, that notion that we've set up as sacrosanct, and therefore we can't support this person, or we can't support this method.
Precisely, yeah. I mean, we could go back to the analogy from the beginning of the show, or any kind of sports situation. In a sporting situation, you have a matrix in which to operate, and you can advance inside that matrix based on the ingenuity you can bring to bear, the rules of that game, the actions of the opponent. But when you are outside of that environment, when you're not even permitted to participate in that environment, then you're more likely, I think, to endeavor to pursue a doing good for our people, white well-being, by some other means. And they've just ended up, a lot of folks, good-meaning folks, honest folks, have ended up heading down paths that have really been thoroughly trod in most places now. And we kind of just going back over a lot of the same material. There are still nuggets out there to find, of course. But that's, a lot of the reason why. You also have the things like fear as a motivator. You also have things like not wanting to, what's another way to put it? Like not wanting to pay your dues, like wanting to get to the end where we recapture our destiny too quickly, and you don't want to
being used to losing.
Yeah, being used to losing. Yeah, a lot of people are afraid to win. That's a big psychological phenomenon. They're used to losing. It's prospect of comfortable. They finding themselves in a scenario where they're victorious is very uncomfortable. They don't know what to do next, and they would rather. This is why people, you'll see, we see it all the time in the real world. They'll work hard enough to get a certain amount of grades at school, work hard enough to get a certain paycheck, certain level of income, and then they no more. They don't want to do any more. Why? Because there's more responsibility at the next level up. There are more questions to answer at the next level up that you might not have answers for. There's change there, and change in and of itself can be problematic. But when you go to a and I guess I've been geared like this to my life is to assess. Okay, this is where we are with whatever it might be, with grades, with sports, with work, with people I've managed, and said, assess. This is where we're at. What do we got to do next? I have an overarching goal, but what do we have to do next, and then next, and then next to move toward that goal? And not everybody is as you're pointing out, Jared. Not everybody is as similarly minded. They pursue other paths, and certainly like an esoteric paths where they're not wedding like you do the esotericism with real world consequences. That's one of the things we have to, and that's what I've implored some of these younger folks to do that do focus more on philosophical questions, is to try to wed these things to the real world consequences, try to explain the successes with the esotericism rather than just squat in the esotericism or squat in the news or squat, all of these endless things that folks end up doing. So yeah, folks there are plenty of people out there who have their heart in the right place and they're honest, they want to do the right thing. And they're just so used to being outside of the battlefield of metaphorical battlefield of ideas and power that they don't even know how to play that game. How do you begin to move the ball toward the other team's goal so that you can score the points? They just have no clue. And that's where we get a lot of fantastic thinking and fanciful thinking. And we had who was it earlier in the show? I think it was Elaine asking about the show yesterday. It was a good show, and you can find it on Mark's BitChute channel. And please do head over there tomorrow. You can just type in Mark Collett BitChute in your browser in your search engine. That's the easiest way to find a channel on BitChute, because otherwise it's garbage. And have a look at it there. But it went well. And I think that, let me check here. Jared, why don't you give any of your final thoughts on that, and or tell folks about the conversations you're having with John Bruce Leonard and where folks can find you, and we will begin to tap out of this particular episode.
Well, for anyone who's new, and we always welcome, we know there's always some new people kind of hanging out and checking things out, and we always appreciate that. For those young and old, new and have been with us since the beginning, I am Jared George, and my website is thegreatorder.com. So if you want to find my social media, contact, support, see the whole catalog of things I do and what I'm up to, it's pretty easy. It's all right there. And as I said a little while ago, I'm mostly geared towards culture and arts and keeping a good balance on things where we look at the world and we see what's going on, but we're still living our lives. I like to remind people, you're still living your life day to day, and it's toxic to take in only bad news, only negative information all the time, all these ugly images and horror stories. We have to put our foot on the gas and also create things that are positive and beautiful. So I like to share beautiful things. I share art that I don't make, just I like to find on my website. I have some different cultural projects coming down the pike. I have this show and all these things I've been doing with Jason for the last 2.5 years, and the whole wonderful life that we have here in this community. Jason mentioned one new project that I'm doing, and that is a series called Learning in Public with Arctos Editor-in-Chief John Bruce Leonard, where we do a little more open-ended kind of chats, and it's not as guest-driven. We did a few shows so far just to get our sea legs, and it's just been the two of us. We will have guests on occasion, and as the show says, we kind of like to just pick apart and challenge things, and as I was saying, kind of have a little more of a think tank online and be participating in culture that way, because I like to say, as much as there's this nutty stuff going on right now, you kind of still have to live in a way where you're already won. Like we were talking a few minutes ago about not being used to winning, right? Or being so used to losing. You kind of have to put it ahead of yourself a little bit. I ask myself the question of, well, what would I be doing? What kinds of things would I be doing after we recapture our destiny, as Jason says, you have to live in that now to some degree. So I do things that are imbued with who I am and the culture I come from. It's natural. I can't get away from it. But that doesn't mean that every single thing I do has to have a very overt message. So I write poetry, and not all that, I don't tell people how to interpret the poems, but it's not like roses are red, violets are blue. I'm proud to be white. You should be too. That's I just wrote on the fly. See how I do. They're not all like that. I'll say that. Or music. I know I've been teasing you all for a while, but there's a reason. Building it slowly, building it right. But music's coming down the pike. Other things. I make videos for Red Ice, and we occasionally put some material out I do with Henrik, and we might have another one coming out soon. So all sorts of things. My site is thegreatorder.com. But getting back to John, funny enough, Jason, you and I kind of did this open-ended stream today. John and I had decided yesterday, or 2 days ago actually, that our next show, which is this Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, which is 4 p.m. Central European time, because we have some European listeners, we were just going to get up and not know what we were going to say. So we're doing an open-ended show, and we had decided to do that even before you and I did today's open-ended show. So I guess that's just kind of the theme of the week. It's what's together. So John and I are doing an open-ended show on Saturday. We're going to see what comes up. Maybe it'll be brilliant. Maybe it'll be a train wreck. Who knows? But so far, we've tackled some questions like, how do you live in a globalized world, but counter the idea of globalism, because those are not quite the same thing. We talked about online community and online creation and some nuances around that. We had a follow-up on Eastern Orthodoxy after Jason and I had the Eastern Orthodox guest on tap a couple of weeks ago. John and I kind of did a post-game on that. A bunch of different things. But Saturday is just going to be open-ended. So again, that's on my channel. It's at 10 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central European time. So check me out on my website, as I said, to kind of see where you can view it and follow me on social media and all of that and see what I'm up to. But other than that, I think we're good for now. So Jason.
Well, fantastic, brother. I appreciate that. And everybody, if you haven't subscribed to Jared already, do so. Also, save the website, theafterparty.tv.
That's our joint site, yes.
Our joint site, so that if everything goes away here tomorrow, which could very easily happen, especially with the anti-whites who call themselves Democrats getting their way increasingly without any recourse for us, that sort of thing can happen, and they won't even have to give an excuse. In fact, they don't even have to give an excuse at all. So make sure that you bookmark that so that you will be able to find us no matter what happens. I want to thank our moderator today, Seaver, protecting us from some ne'er-do-wells that tried to show up and cause issues, make us look bad. So thank you so much, dear brother. We have Slots coming in here with the great hero Slots from our community coming in with a late financial gift of $5 and saying everything he had to say to the anti-whites with those $5. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we are, looks like we're good over on Entropy. I even opened up the chest over on D Live for everybody over there so they could get their Lino points, as they are called. I did notice, and I wanted to mention that I saw Fraulein Dresden, if I did get an opportunity to mention that I saw her a little earlier. Her name flashed by. And I would like to also spotlight, let's see, who did I see today? I saw Veritas Incorporated was with us. Europa Ascends was also with us today. Big spotlight for Aiden, who was with us. And a great name here, Millennial Honky was also with us. A big spotlight there. You got to love that name. Thank you all for showing up. Everybody for financially gifting as well, and everybody who participated in the conversation. It is the lifeblood of what we're doing. We're going to be the core, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be the elect of the elect as this continues to grow. There's some great work going on with Crucible right now. There are some contributors, others who is making it better, and of course, Groundhog Fury making it magnificent beyond imagination. This is hopefully going to be everything that we plan for it to be, a bridge for the MAGA folks to come over and begin speaking with a lexicon and dialectics that will truly enable them to go free and enable us to recapture our destiny. Now, tomorrow is going to be a big day. The garage party, ladies and gentlemen, make sure. Now, it's going to be a little later, though. The garage party will be at 9 p.m. I think tomorrow, 9 p.m. rather than 7, 9 p.m. tomorrow for the garage party.
I have to change that on the Tap TV site.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for letting me know. See, look at this. We're working even as we do a show.
And we're working even as we work, precisely, for White Wellbeing.
See how into multi-dimensionality we are.
Precisely. We're actually also in 2 places at one time right now. So there's this Jason and Jared, and there's another Jason and Jared working simultaneously somewhere else.
We shouldn't tell people that. We'll start to be accused of having like deep fakes and things like that.
The deep network of
Deep tap. Deep tap.
Yes, deep tap.
So it's 9 p.m. Eastern.
9 p.m. Eastern, and it's going to be
for anyone who's new, what is Chuck Martell's Garage Party, the weekly Friday show that you put on?
It is a place where we, it's not really debuts, but we definitely frame and share some of the best art from our community, poetry, your videos that you have made both with Kat, with Red Ice, and certainly a lot of music, different musicians that are in the White Positive sphere, because we know that it is the culture creation is critical to the birth of a people out of our deracinated race. We're going to have to again become the makers of our own art, of our own entertainment, if we're going to survive, because the anti-whites will never make it in a way that will benefit us. It's always going to be poison when anti-whites make it. So that is, and it's anywhere from 30 minutes to nearly an hour, and we just have a hell of a lot of fun. We turn the speakers all the way up and make sure that all your neighbors know when the garage party is going. It's just a way to let loose a little bit, because we have fun here in the White Positive sphere.
All these shows are archived, as Jason said, on our shared site, theafterparty.tv, and our separate sites. But on the afterparty.tv, it's cataloged in such a way where it's not just a YouTube link. It's not even just a BitChute link. It's a little more robustly cataloged. We're trying to do our best so that, we want to build something. The digital world is kind of ethereal, but we're trying to build something as solid as we can. We're proud of what we're doing. We want there to be a legacy here, and people to go back and see what we were saying and what was happening during these times, and be a record of these times. And it takes work to do that. So we do appreciate your support. That is where your super chat money goes, to doing things like this. So if you're new and you're wondering about that, go to our websites and see all the work. And I think it speaks for itself.
It absolutely does. Very well said. And then all of us here, all of us who are participants in Going Free, the day is going to come, and it's getting quicker and quicker that it's going to come to us, where we're going to be recognized for the work that we're doing. We're going to be seeing more and more of the rewards, the fruits of all of that labor, all of that sowing of the seeds in the dark I talk about in Prometheus Rising. Now, tomorrow also, the final thing I'll say here is that tomorrow is going to be an extra exciting day. So make sure you keep your eyes open for anything unusual tomorrow. And with that, I will leave you all. It's been wonderful, and we look forward to